It is Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from our homes, and we will be here for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics. And it is Top 5 Tuesday, and it looks like a Top 5 Tuesday outside, Wade. Stellar.
It is gorgeous outside, and already got out and got some sun going. Took the dog for a nice walk, and yeah, I mean, it is. What more could you ask for on a day where you're not supposed to be cooped up in front of the TV watching basketball? This is the day you want.
Exactly.
You want the rain and the nastiness to come in Thursday, Friday through the weekend. You want it to be nice on days like today.
Yeah, I mean, the rain can be, on those days when you were planning on being inside anyway, or to give you an excuse to stay inside. But yeah, get out, see some high school sports. That's my plan after the show, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, get out and enjoy this weather, man. It's awesome. But stick around for the next couple of hours, though, because in the next hour, we'll be joined, as we typically are on Tuesdays, by the voice of the Blue Raiders, Chip Walters, talking a little MTSU activity as we get caught up from, the remnants of hoop season, swing into spring sports and everything that goes along with that. Looking forward to chatting with Chip as always. In the next segment, we'll be joined by Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7. A lot going on in Knoxville, say the least. Both the men and the women will be advancing into Sweet 16 competition this weekend. Baseball and softball teams both doing some pretty good things here. And a record set, actually, during last night's softball matchup with Arkansas. We will check in with Ben on all of that in the next segment. We'll continue to talk basketball throughout the show. A lot of developments away from NCAA tournament action. So looking forward to getting into all that. We'll be talking some Major League Baseball, some professional football, some collegiate football, and maybe even some high school football. So plenty to get to as we go from preps to pros on this Top 5 Tuesday. So stick around. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. Like you said, we got a lot to cover today. Big show, busy show. Let's get this thing rolling, my man.
Absolutely. And again, it is Top 5 Tuesday. In our final segment, Wade and I will give you songs we hate. This was motivated by our stay, specifically my stay, over at Murphy Center for the last couple of weeks. So not everything that we heard over there was stellar, as the weather is. So songs we hate.
You know me, Mo. I'm an optimist by nature, but even I can come up. I'm not a hater, but I can come up with 5 songs by the end of this show. So there are a few that instantly crossed my mind when this was forecast as our top 5.
There were a few that crossed my mind, but I will tell you that I had a little bit harder time filling out a list than I had anticipated. We'll get into that more, though, in the final segment. So stick around for that. That's going to be fun. Right now, let's get you yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
The rundown is here, ladies and gentlemen, and let's kick it off with results from last night. And we start with baseball action, where Brentwood defeats Nolensville 8-0. Rossview taking care of Clarksville Northeast 6-5. It was Columbia 8, Spring Hill 1. Culleoka with a 5-4 win versus Cornersville. Henry County blanking Dixon County 4-0. Eagleville taking care of Fayetteville 3-1. It was Creekwood by the same score, 3-1 versus Fairview. Franklin picks up a 6-4 win versus Centennial. It was Gallatin 3, Whitney Young out of Illinois 2. So 3-2 for Gallatin in that one. 5-2 was your score as Lawrence County tops Giles County last night in district action. 13-0 as Richland blanks Hampshire in their district showdown. It was Independence 4, Ravenwood 1, Lawson with a pair of wins versus Glencliff. The first one, 22-0. The second one, a little bit more mercy shown by Lawson. 12-0 was your score in that one. 9-2 was the score as Lewis County defeats Battle Creek. It was Summertown 7, Loretto 1. Middle Tennessee Christian taking care of BGA 6-3. Community with a 4-1 victory versus Mount Pleasant. It was Marshall County 10, Murfreesboro Central Magnet 7. Providence Christian picks up a 10-0 win versus Laverne. It was Siegel over South Hills, California 5-2. Summit with a 7-0 win versus Page. And final baseball score from yesterday, it was Franklin Christian with a 4-3 victory versus Zion Christian.
In softball action from Monday, Central of Alabama with an 11-10 win over Blackman. Smyrna defeats Laverne 23-0. Zion Christian with a 12-4 win over Loretto. Portland edged Gallatin 7-6. Deschler of Alabama defeated Riverdale 12-9. Coverage of this one at MainStreetMurray.com. Culleoka in a back-and-forth affair outlasts Santa Fe 6-5. And Siegel defeats Deschler of Alabama 5-4. On the pitch, Giles County with a 5-2 win over Fairview, and Portland defeated White House 7-0. Today's baseball schedule, we've got a 4 o'clock start for Glenbrook South out of Illinois and Blackman. At 4:30, George W. Long takes on Columbia Academy. That's down on the beach, I believe, Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, down that way. Also at 4:30, Clarksville Academy visits Goodpasture. Christian Community plays Westmoreland. Christ Presbyterian will go to Pope John Paul II at 5 o'clock, and Loretto is at Summertown at 5 o'clock.
Other games on the docket for the rest of the evening. Stewart's Creek will meet with Wilson Central at 6 p.m. Mount Pleasant is traveling to Community at 6 o'clock tonight. Cornersville is on the road at Culleoka. Mount Juliet Christian will be at Ezell Harding. It'll be Eagleville on the road at Fayetteville tonight. Smyrna is traveling to Laverne. Giles County will hit the road for a small trip over to Lawrence County. It'll be Murfreesboro Central Magnet visiting Marshall County at 6 p.m. Capping that 6 o'clock window will be Columbia at Spring Hill. At 6:30 tonight, Middle Tennessee Christian.
Hey, stop.
All right.
Spring Hill is at Columbia. That game got flip-flopped because of the inavailability of Spring Hill's field. So
the old flippity flop.
The old flippity flop. Still the same start time, 6 o'clock, but it's at Columbia Central.
There we go. Good update there. Middle Tennessee Christian will be at BGA at 6:30. It'll be Lewis County at Battle Creek this evening. Oak Grove out of Illinois is going to meet Blackman. Kirkwood is on the road at Clarksville. Fairview at Kenwood. Middle Tennessee Monarchs at Franklin Road Christian. You can also catch Portland at Greenbrier. Brentwood Academy is at John Overton. Brentwood is on the road at Nolensville. Summit traveling to Page. It'll be Gallatin at Providence Christian. Other games tonight at 6:30 are Independence at Ravenwood, Lakeside, Alabama at Siegel, Liberty Creek at Springfield. 7 o'clock start times for Mount Juliet at Beach, Green Hill at Hendersonville, Dixon County at Henry County, Marion Catholic, Illinois versus Oakland, White House at Station Camp at 7 p.m. Start times not available to us, but we do show on the schedule Franklin at Centennial and Glencliff at Lawson.
Softball action today. We have scheduled a 12 noon start for Wicksburg of Alabama and Columbia Central. I am trying to see if we've got a final on that, because if that's correct, that game should be about done. Seeing no score on that. 5 o'clock starts for Clarksville Academy at Ezell Harding. Also, Gallatin at Hendersonville. Hunters Lane goes to Overton. Portland hosts Greenbrier. Spring Hill takes on visiting Lincoln County. Centennial is at Summit. Creekwood goes to Sycamore, and Westmoreland is at White House Heritage. At 5:30, Oakland travels to Blackman. Lawrence County faces Giles County. Wade, any idea where that is?
Also in Lawrenceburg, the double dip over in Lawrenceburg tonight. Busy night for Scott Stewart and our ex-sports crew, AJ Good and company.
Good for them. Hey, also at 5:30, Tullahoma is at Murfreesboro Magnet. At 6, Loretto travels to Zion Christian. Also at 6, Summertown is at Battle Creek. Cookville hosts Laverne. Eagleville travels to Cornersville. 6:30 start for Santa Fe at Richland. Lebanon is at Stewart's Creek at 6:30, and Smyrna goes to Wilson Central at 6:30.
Soccer matches on the docket for tonight at 5 o'clock. Middle Tennessee Christian will head to St. Andrews over at Sewanee. At 5 p.m. also this evening, Ezell Harding at Whites Creek. 5:30 kickoff for Spring Hill at BGA. 6 p.m. start time for Battle Creek, who's at Culleoka. Zion Christian is on the road tonight at Dixon Academy. Other 6 o'clock starts include Laverne at Franklin and Lawson at Hunter's Lane. 6:30 showdown for Oakland, who's on the road tonight at Rockvale. 7 p.m. kickoff as Blackman will travel to Siegel. Stewart's Creek is at Smyrna. Green Hill is traveling to Hendersonville. Gallatin will be at Merrill Hyde. And Lebanon is on the road tonight at Riverdale. Flag football action beginning at 6 o'clock tonight. Buckle up in Rutherford County. Siegel and Oakland will tangle at 6. Siegel will meet Murfreesboro Central Magnet at 7. And Murfreesboro Central Magnet will play Oakland at 8 o'clock. At 6 p.m. this evening in the NHL, the Preds will be on the road over in Carolina taking on the Hurricanes. Again, a 6 o'clock puck drop, and you can see that game on FanDuel Sports South. Also in action tonight on FanDuel Sports South at 8 p.m., the Memphis Grizzlies will be on the road in Utah taking on the Jazz. Preds at 6, Grizz at 8, both on FanDuel Sports South. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this Tuesday schedule, and that concludes your Tuesday rundown.
Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill in Columbia, bringing you our top story. And awful news from the NCAA tournament last night. 5 minutes into their second round matchup with 9-seed Mississippi State, Southern Cal lost sophomore Juju Watkins to a torn ACL. The Trojan women went on and won that game 96-59, but obviously they will be without Juju for the remainder of the season. And you hate any injury, but this is one of the best players in the country, just a sophomore, bringing a little buzz, a lot of juice to the women's game. And when the most eyes probably are on the game, you're missing one of your brightest stars. And it's unfortunate for Southern Cal, but it's unfortunate for the game as well, I think.
Ain't no doubt about that. And, this is one that kind of transcends USC, transcends the Big Ten, transcends the game in general. This is kind of one of your not even up-and-coming stars. I mean, she's already arrived, probably barring something crazy happening. She's going to be your Wooden Award winner this year as the National Player of the Year. She goes out. She was kind of carrying the torch in that Caitlin Clark capacity of, hey, she's must-see TV. Who cares what else is on TV? If Juju is playing, you got to tune in. And not only is that a tough injury for USC, of course, who, still has some troops and will still do their best. But, man, their road to the Final Four got a lot tougher. They were able to pick up the win pretty convincingly still versus Mississippi State. But what do you got for an encore versus Kansas State? And then what do you potentially have for either Oklahoma or UConn? And that's just to get to the Final Four.
That's just to get to the Final Four. And, yeah, the road does get a little tougher for them. But, you got to like the way they kind of rallied the troops last night. I mean, again, 96-59 over Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State wasn't an upper echelon Southeastern Conference team, but at the same time, yeah, that thing could have gone in a lot of different directions when you lose a player the caliber of a Juju Watkins. So the fact that they were able to pull it together, both from a game plan and just from a mental, emotional standpoint to take care of business on their home floor and win that one going away, despite what they had witnessed, mid-game, 5 minutes into the game. So, a lot of resolve and resilience on the part of USC to win that one the way they did. But, I think it might be one of those where once the adrenaline wears off, it's like, whoa, we're actually going to be taking the court without her, going forward. And you have to wonder how that impacts that team and the way they go about their business from here going on.
Yeah, and, in some regards, as bad as the injury was, the good news is it came in that game, in that second round game, right? If this were the first round game and you got to turn around on 2 days' notice to get ready, it would have certainly been a tough wrap. So if you're looking for any sort of silver lining for Coach Gottlieb and the rest of this USC team, yeah, it's going to be tough from here on out, starting with Kansas State coming up later this week. But you at least It ain't going to help much, but at least you get a few extra days to try and come up with some sort of extra game plan, because it's going to be all hands on deck from here on out for a team that, a lot of folks, myself included, had penciled into the Final Four. And now all of a sudden you kind of got to wonder, is it UConn? Is it Oklahoma? Or do they even get by Kansas State later this week?
I will tell you, whatever game plan they come up with, it will involve Kiki Iriafen, the Stanford transfer, who last night had 36 points in 31 minutes along with 9 rebounds, excuse me. She just she was dominant in the paint for USC in the absence of Juju Watkins, and she was part of the reason that this team was expected to do everything that they've done this season. She was the 2024 Katrina McLean Award winner at Stanford in her final season, transferred to USC this year. And again, she's been quite impactful in Juju's shadow to some degree. So she's going to be a big part of whatever happens for them, I would think, the rest of the way.
Yeah, this certainly dampers their chances to, win it all, perhaps. But the good news is they've got at least some hustle. You don't just you can get to number one with a transcendent player like Juju, but more often than not, you're going to have some backup, and they at least have a little backup. How far those supporting cast can kind of carry them, that'll be the $1 million question going forward. They're playing in Spokane on Saturday night. A lot of folks will be tuning in to see what they look like in that final game right after UConn and Oklahoma take the court there. So if you win that one, again, it's going to be a tough road from here on out. It was going to be tough anyway, but man, that is one that really kind of stings.
No doubt. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to Top 5 Tuesday, we will be joined by Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7. Again, a lot going on in Knoxville right now. We will tap into Ben to get some insight into all of it. Stick around.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And we are joined now by Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7. Ben, talk to us. What's going on?
Everything's going on. It's that time of year. We've got Tennessee baseball in the thick of SEC play, both basketball programs in the Sweet 16. We've got opening day on Thursday. We had football spring practice this morning. Basketball portal recruiting is starting. What's not going on right now?
I think you hit it all, partner.
I'm pretty sure you touched on all of it. Yeah, or I hope you did anyway. Yeah, because if there's more, I'm not sure what's going to happen with you. But yeah, obviously, Sweet 16 capturing most everybody's attention at this point, both the women and the men. As you mentioned, the men get ready for a third matchup with Kentucky this weekend. The women get ready for a second matchup with Texas, both in, all SEC clashes there. And for obvious reasons, I guess this is the biggest Tennessee-Kentucky game ever.
Yeah, it is. You can make the case that it's the biggest basketball game in Tennessee history as well. I don't know that I would slot it number one just because it's not an Elite Eight game, and Tennessee has played two of those. But I do think I would at least say that it's the second biggest game in program history. I think last year's Elite Eight game with Dalton Connect against Zach Edey was the biggest game in program history. And I'll put this one ahead of the Elite Eight that Bruce Pearl took Tennessee to, just because of the storylines that are within this game. Of course, you're playing Kentucky, the biggest rivalry game the rivalry has seen, to your point. I totally agree with you there. But then it could be Zakai Ziegler's last game, and he is the greatest point guard in program history. Jemai Mashak, it could be his last game. He's an all-time legend at Tennessee, and there's several other seniors who it could be their last game as well. And what if it's Rick Barnes' last game? So I know the Elite Eight is technically bigger than the Sweet 16, but I do think that this Sweet 16 game is almost the equivalent of an Elite Eight game when you consider who they're playing, who's leaving the program after the season. There's a lot on the line. And I guess the proper way to describe it is I don't know that there's ever been a Tennessee basketball game in which the pendulum is going to swing so drastically one way or the other. I think it'll be one of the – I don't know that I should say worst, but I think it'll be one of the toughest losses in program history, if not the toughest, given everything I said. But then if you win – it will be the greatest win in program history, given they've never won in the Elite Eight. And they're also still playing for the Final Four this weekend, even if this isn't the game that directly puts them there. They are playing for their Final Four hopes, their national championship hopes on Friday night.
Let's dig a little deeper into something that you said there, possibly Rick Barnes' last game. And I mean, other than the fact that he is 70 years old, is there anything in particular that prompts that?
No, I know nothing, genuinely. I don't think Rick knows. His answer when it's been brought up behind the scenes amongst many people around has been, I'll know it's time when the good Lord tells me to. That's his go-to line. And I truly think that he is living in the moment as he should be and totally focused on this year's team. And I don't mean to insinuate one way or the other. I just know that it is a possibility. Anybody who doesn't think it's a possibility, I think they're living under a rock. I mean, he's up there in age, and I do think he'll go the Tony Bennett route and not announcing right after the season. I don't know that he'll wait as long as Tony Bennett did. That would surprise me. But I also don't think it's going to be within a handful of days of the season ending. I truly think he's going to take some time to figure it out, let the emotions come back down to earth, the emotional roller coaster that he'll be on. He's always talked about how Dean Smith always gave him advice to when it is time to make that decision, don't make it in the immediate aftermath of the season. So I think he's going to take some time before he makes that decision, whenever that is. But if he wanted to do it when he could impact the least amount of people, it would be now, given how much turnover there's going to be with the roster. Again, I would not be surprised if he announced it in an hour. I would not be surprised if he coached 5 more years. And that's not a cop-out answer. That's genuinely how I feel. I think it's a year-by-year case. And in practice, he seems like the same old Rick Barnes to me in terms of the intensity and the joy in coaching these players. But is that same joy going to be there when Zakai Ziegler's not the coach on the floor for you next season? So not at all trying to insinuate anything one way or the other. I just think it is the storyline that's painted on the wall, whether we want it to be there or not.
Ben, we've obviously seen some very dramatic Tennessee-Kentucky games over the years, and, more so it feels like on the Kentucky side of things. But if you break it down, they met 241 times all time. They have never met in the NCAA tournament. Is this the biggest version of Tennessee-Kentucky of all time in your mind?
Yeah, no doubt. I don't even think it's a question, just because it's not only the NCAA tournament. I mean, this would be the biggest game they've played if it were a first-round game. But given the Sweet 16 and all the storylines on Tennessee's side, and it's a true rivalry. I know Tennessee fans don't like talking about Kentucky as a rival when it comes to football. And I get it, given how uncompetitive Kentucky has been in the series. But I base rivalries off of hate for one another. And Tennessee hates Kentucky. Kentucky hates Tennessee. They can't stand one another. And I don't know which one's technically closer, but it's right there with Vanderbilt as being the closest SEC school to you. So it's by far the biggest game in my mind in the history that they've played so many games together. And Tennessee has beaten Kentucky more than anybody, but we still know that Kentucky is a blue blood and Tennessee isn't quite that. And, Kentucky's going to be – if Kentucky were to lose on Friday, I think their fan base will still be very, very pleased because they made it to the Sweet 16 in year one of Mark Pope with a brand new roster after the losses that they've had to deal with John Calipari the last couple of years and the divorce and who ended up better with Cal at Arkansas and Kentucky with Pope and BYU losing Pope and them feeling like maybe they upgraded from Pope. So I think, by Kentucky basketball standards, as high as it is, I think they'll actually be really, really pleased with the season, even if they lose on Friday. But a win over Tennessee would really that would be a sucker punch for Tennessee, or a gut punch, going 0-3, and you did so while you're trying to make your first Final Four ever, and they still kind of can hang everything over your head that they have for so long. I without a doubt think it's the biggest game in the history of the rivalry, which I think is pretty cool because I mean, it's got to be the most underrated rivalry in college basketball. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't think it gets the conversation that it deserves.
I'm with you there. I would imagine no shortage of Tennessee and Kentucky fans either. Awful convenient that the game's played in Indy, not in Spokane or anything. It just feels like it's a great location. Only place maybe better would if they'd been in Atlanta somehow, but it seems like Indianapolis is about as good as it's going to get for travel for both of these teams.
Yeah, especially Kentucky. I mean, it's going to be more of a road game for Tennessee than it will be a neutral site. It just kind of is what it is. And Tennessee could potentially be playing 2 neutral site games this weekend. If it wins and Purdue upsets Houston, then you turn around and play Purdue, which is very close to Indianapolis as well. So Tennessee is going to have to turn up the grit quite a bit, or at least turn it up a notch this weekend. I don't know that many teams have more grit than Tennessee does, if anybody does, but they're going to have to even turn up their own intensity, which is top notch, another notch this weekend, because it's going to be more of a road game than a neutral site. I imagine that there will be a nice handful of Tennessee fans in attendance. They want to respect Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Meshack on the way out the door and not miss what could be one last opportunity or 2 more opportunities to watch him play in a Tennessee uniform. But I also think they want to will Tennessee to a win. So I'm sure if you're Tennessee, yeah, Kentucky travels everywhere for basketball. Maybe you would have liked to have seen this in Nashville or Atlanta.
Nice.
Maybe not the best location for Tennessee, but the environment in Lucas Oil Stadium is going to be really, really fun. Both games with Purdue and Kentucky packing it out, and then Tennessee, they'll be outnumbered fan-wise, but I bet you there will still be a strong contingent, and they make their voices heard.
Ben McKee of GoVols 24/7 joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Ben, you mentioned Kentucky has won both these matchups during the regular season. What has Tennessee missed in those two games, in your assessment, that they need to have this weekend to advance to the Elite Eight?
They've missed shots. They need to make some shots is what they need to do. They made 11 of them technically in that first matchup, but they did so taking 45 3-pointers, which is the second most in program history. And then in Lexington, I think they were like 3 of 17 or something along those lines. They just have not shot the ball well in either of those two matchups. And not that Tennessee's offense is elite, but it's been a good offense, and it's been pretty consistent, and it's been more than good enough. The guard play has to be better to better answer your question. The guard play has not been good enough in those first two matchups. And it's really disappointing when you consider the fact that Kentucky was shorthanded, especially the first game in Knoxville. They were without their point guard, Lamont Butler, and their starting big man, Andrew Carr. He only played 2 minutes because of injury, and Kentucky still kind of took it to them. So I don't know if it was an oddity, those two games, because those were really the only two games that Tennessee looked that poor in, outside of the loss at Florida as well. Tennessee was a pretty consistent team. And I do think the ebbs and flows of basketball, playing so many games each season, you're going to have a couple of nights each year where you just can't make shots. So were those two losses to Kentucky, was that just a long season, and those were kind of the games in which Tennessee couldn't hit shots and it just happened to be against the same opponent? Or is Kentucky just a really bad matchup for Tennessee? I would like to think from Tennessee's side of things that they're not going to allow as many open threes this time around. But I also thought that going into the rematch in Lexington, and they still gave up a bunch of open threes. So the perimeter defense and the guard play has to be better. It just was not good whatsoever in those first two matchups. And I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you find a lot of confidence in the fact that this is a different backcourt at the moment for Tennessee. Zakai Ziegler, he had that knee injury late in the first half of the first matchup and just was not himself in the second half. Chaz Lanier is a totally different basketball player, I think, today than he was in those matchups. He's playing his best basketball of the season. Jordan Gainey's playing his best basketball of the season. Jemai Mashak has found his footing offensively to add to the defense. And I know I already talked about Zakai and the knee thing, but Zakai was struggling to knock down perimeter shots at that time too. And now he seemed to have found a groove from the perimeter. So it's still going to be a tall task for Tennessee, both offensively and defensively in the backcourt. But I think if you're Tennessee, you find a lot of confidence in the fact that this backcourt has gotten better over the last month or so from those previous two matchups.
Obviously, one of the greatest cliches in sports, as particularly in basketball, is it's tough to beat a good team 3 times. How applicable is this in this specific matchup, do you think?
Yeah, that's a conversation I've had with my buddies is would you rather be the team that's won both of the matchups going into this one or the team that's lost both? And I think I'd rather be the team that's lost both in terms of being prepared for this particular matchup. I just think that human nature kind of takes over to a certain extent. And I don't want to say that Kentucky will be comfortable and that they're going to lack an edge to them. It's a Sweet 16 game. Like that alone should have you ready to play basketball.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think Tennessee may have a little extra. I think they may have a little extra with Lamont Butler saying that they're going to win in his post-game comments over the weekend. And that's on top of Tennessee already being down and frustrated with how they played in the first two matchups. So not that I think Kentucky is going to be unprepared. I just think that Tennessee is going to have a little more motivation just because of human nature, because they lost those first two matchups, which means I think they're going to be more attentive to details and taking care of things. Every little thing I think is going to be taken care of with Tennessee. And maybe Kentucky does the same thing as well. I just think when you're looking at a team that has the mindset of we've already beaten this team twice, and you're looking at the team that's lost to the team twice, and it's not because there's a great talent discrepancy. They're evenly matched teams. I just think it's more likely that the team that has lost twice is going to be a little more locked in. And, in the Sweet 16, that little more could be the difference in going to the Elite Eight or not. So Kentucky should have a lot of confidence. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, what they're doing against Tennessee has worked quite well. But for a team that is 0-2 against a rival, if you can't tell by my responses, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons Tennessee should be confident going into this matchup. And I think one of the biggest reasons, in addition to your backcourt playing better basketball right now, is that you know what you need to do to correct what you did wrong the first two times. And I think just the human nature side of it, it just kind of, those two losses wake you up a little bit more, whereas Kentucky's fat and happy to a certain extent. And I'd rather this time of year be the more desperate basketball team.
Ben, we've talked about Tennessee and on the men's side, and obviously Final Four aspirations for that team, this team right now. On the women's side, are they kind of playing with house money at this point, getting into the Sweet 16 as they get ready to take on a Texas team that they've already lost to once?
I'd say yes, but I don't like saying yes because it's the Lady Vols, and we know what the standard of the program is. Yeah, I do think they're playing with house money because I've been very impressed by the job Coach Caldwell and her staff have done this season. I was really impressed over the weekend because they looked down and out there for a minute to end the regular season, and we kind of wondered, does this team need a reset? Or are they worn out? How much is 2 weeks off going to help them? And it's clear they needed a reset. They needed some time off their feet, and it looked like a totally different basketball team this past weekend in Columbus. So I've been very impressed. But with that being said, I do think that, I know she doesn't like this because she had a great quote about it earlier this season, but they're not her players at the end of the day. And I think getting to the Sweet 16 in the first year where you didn't really have much to work with in terms of high school recruiting, I thought they did a great job recruiting the portal after they got hired, which is a big part of the job now. And that's allowed them to get to the Sweet 16. But you just didn't have a lot to work with in terms of a foundation with the roster. You had a couple of holdovers. But just not a great foundation, in my opinion. And to be able to kind of take that after the previous staff barely recruited the high school ranks the last couple of years and left the cupboard very, very bare, to take that and to get to the Sweet 16 in a day and age where women's basketball is better than it ever has been, and the SEC is a dominant league, very similar to the men's league. I think it's very impressive what they have done by getting to the Sweet 16. So, yeah, I do think they're playing with a little bit of house money. And that's also included with the fact that they're playing a Texas team that could win the national championship. This Texas team is really, really good. Maybe if you had a more gettable opponent, maybe you're not playing with as much house money. But, yeah, I think that they are, just because of what they had to work with coming into the season to get to this point. I think is a job well done on their part. Although I don't like saying that because it is the Lady Vols, and simply getting to the Sweet 16 is not good enough. Those expectations will climb year to year as she is able to really lay a foundation for the program with her players. But in the meantime, I'll say, yeah, they're playing with house money.
I think it's more a case of objectivity than anything else, where this team has come from to where this team is under a first-year coach. I guess that's kind of my approach to the house money concept. I mean, I know that this program obviously expects bigger and better, but at the same time, you're dealing with a first-year coach who had to put a roster together pretty much on the fly, like you said.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the other big thing is something that I touched on. The league is so much better now, and women's basketball as a whole is so much better now. It is harder to win championships than it was when Gino and Pat were running the sport. And that's not to take anything away from those two coaches. They still did a phenomenal job, obviously. But I don't think there's any denying that it is harder to win now than it was then, because more people care, more teams are invested now. And you have more competition, both on the recruiting trail, and then that obviously leads to what you're competing against during games. So I agree with you. I know that's kind of a popular conversation in sports once you get to the playoffs, is playing with house money and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's a huge compliment to what Kim Caldwell and her staff have done this year to take what they took over, which wasn't much when they got here, and turn that into a Sweet 16 team. And they do have a chance to go beat Texas. I mean, I'm not going to pick them to win or anything. Again, that Texas team could win the national championship. But, hey, without Kim Caldwell earlier this season, they lost basically at the buzzer. They lost by what? One possession? And that's a game that you could argue that they should have won. So
in Austin.
Yeah, in Austin. So I'm not going to count out this team, even if I may not pick them. But it's a job well done, and you kind of start. I'm not an avid follower of women's basketball recruiting, but you see some stuff here and there, and they're consistently listed with the top players in the country, and they're picking up commitments from McDonald's All-Americans. Like Kim Caldwell's got it going in the right direction from a personnel standpoint, and then you add that to her philosophies of what she runs on the floor, and it's just a matter of time before the shoe is on the other foot, and Tennessee is the team that's in position to truly go win a national championship.
And the line, for what it's worth, is only 8.5. If you're within 10 points, there's so many teams. I mean, UConn is favored by nearly 15 versus Oklahoma. So, I mean, Tennessee on the right night, under 10 points. I already played them close, like you guys said. I'll roll the dice with that. A chance for UT to pull off and really be playing with house money. And then imagine the sea of Lady Vols fans Monday down in Birmingham if they did pull that win off versus either and then would either get TCU or Notre Dame. Pretty wild to think about, I think.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, kind of like with Josh Heupel's offense, you just can't bet against Caldwell's offense. You just never – it could explode on anybody. So I'm very fast. I'm very curious to see how this matchup plays out. I do think Tennessee has a chance to win. I was not trying to insinuate that at all. This system is fun, and it has gotten people this year, and Texas may be the next one that it gets. And I really feel better about their chances today than I did entering the NCAA tournament because of how they looked those last handful of games in the regular season, and then how they looked at the SEC tournament. I think that break was huge for them. They looked like a totally different team. Their legs looked fresh. They looked like they had that energy back that they played with for the majority of the season. And they have some players on that team, without a doubt, that are capable of taking a basketball game over and winning it, regardless if that's Texas, UConn, South Carolina. They already beat UConn this year, and there were a couple of other ones like Texas that you could argue that they should have won. On the road in Baton Rouge when on Super Bowl Sunday when they blew it in the fourth quarter. So they may be lacking some personnel that they would prefer to have, but the system and the mindset, that's going to give them a chance to win any game that they play the rest of the season.
Ben McKee of GoVols 24/7 joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Ben, a lot of folks really felt like the sky was falling last week when Tennessee lost at Lindsey Nelson to East Tennessee State and then lost the opening game of a 3-game series at Alabama. Are things a little better in Vol Nation now with them getting the final 2 games of that series, do you think?
Yes, much better. Tennessee's still number 1 in the country, and 2 impressive wins to round out the weekend for Tennessee to pick up that series win at Alabama on Friday and Saturday. The offense came to life, and I guess it wasn't even really about the offense. It was just about playing cleaner baseball. They were very, very sloppy in that loss to ETSU, and sloppy in that series opening loss at Alabama, cost themselves both games. So it was very frustrating, and fans certainly had the right to be frustrated with that sloppy play. But you just can't apply football logic or even basketball logic because, like some of the comments I saw was, oh, how could Tennessee lose to East Tennessee State? Well, it's baseball, and East Tennessee State is good at baseball. So it's not the same as football losing to East Tennessee State. It's not that big of a discrepancy in overall ability from each team. And basketball wouldn't be as rare if ETSU or UTC, we've seen that happen. One of Rick's first games, if not the first one, was a loss to UTC. And they've had some battles with ETSU. So it is a little more common in basketball and college basketball. But to take this year's team, I mean, it's not like Tennessee basketball is losing to to ETSU or Wofford or UTC, although those teams had good years.
Right.
It's just not the same because baseball is it can be an all-time equalizer because it's such a game of failure. And that ETSU squad was really, really good. And I walked away from that game being more impressed by what they were doing and how they were playing.
Right. Tennessee has Queens tonight and then travels to Columbia, South Carolina for a 3-game series with the Gamecocks this weekend. Thoughts?
They should go 4-0. That last week was a pretty challenging week. This week should not be as challenging. Queens is 4-18 going into tonight's matchup. So assuming the run rule is on, it should only be 7 innings. Now, what I just got done saying about ETSU, if they lose to Queens, you can freak out about that one a bit more than you can freak out about the loss to ETSU. They have no business losing to Queens, even if baseball can be a little fluky at times. And South Carolina is really going through it right now as well with Paul Maneri back in a dugout coaching. He's the coach at South Carolina after Mark Kingston got fired or left for Creighton. I can't remember which one, but mutual parting of ways. That team's on the struggle bus. They just don't have the talent that those South Carolina teams that won the national championship and competed to go to Omaha had for several years there. They were not even close to Arkansas over the weekend. They just looked totally overmatched, and Tennessee should have no business handling business in Columbia. It's always tricky to play on the road in the SEC, but even despite that, and kind of what we were talking about with the game of baseball overall, like Tennessee has way more talent than South Carolina does, both on the mound and at the plate, and they should handle business. I don't want to say easily, but they should overwhelm South Carolina, very similar to how Arkansas did over the weekend, this past weekend.
You mentioned Arkansas. The Lady Vols struggled with Arkansas over the weekend, dropping 2 of 3, but got out with a, avoided getting swept with a Monday win. And during that win, Carlin Pickens makes some history. 6th inning pitch of 78.2 miles an hour, the fastest in college softball history.
Pretty cool.
I'm sorry.
You pair that with Ben Joyce, and that's quite the that's quite
some
flamethrowers.
Couple of flamethrowers on the hill. Yeah. Previously, Monica Abbott, another ex-Lady Vol, held that record. She had thrown a 77-mile-an-hour pitch at the professional level, but I'm impressed by the fact that she threw that again in the 6th inning. She went 4 1/3 innings in that 3-2 win for Tennessee, and this was obviously on the back end of her outing Monday night when she's reaching that kind of velo.
Yeah, and I imagine she threw quite a bit in the first 2 games as well. I was not able to watch either of the first 2. I was out of town and trying to recover on Sunday from that 9:40 p.m. Eastern tip on Saturday night. But I did watch last night, and they looked much better, it seemed. I know Karen Weekly in her in-game interview was much more pleased with the effort. She flat out said that she didn't think that they played winning baseball or winning softball, in those first 2 games. Didn't play with the effort that they expect from themselves, and just didn't look like themselves. But they did last night, and Pickens throwing 78.2 miles per hour. That is straight gas right there. Premium gas is what that is. And Arkansas's got a nice little squad. I noticed they were in the top 25. So Lady Vols are off to another strong start. They're going to be in the mix every single year as long as Karen Weekly's over there running things. And it looks like they've got another great team on hand. And a lot of it centers around Carolyn Pickens and what she is able to do in the circle. And she's fun to watch, especially when she's got it on and going. I mean, she's one of the best pitchers in the country for a reason. And I thought it was just so much ho-hum after the win. SEC Network, Peter Burns was interviewing her afterwards, and it was like, yeah, just another Monday night. after throwing the fastest pitch ever in softball history. No big deal. Just didn't realize it out of the hand. Didn't realize it until after the game was over. Just very, very much ho-hum.
Things should get a little bit more exciting this weekend when Tennessee goes to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'd say so. The program in college softball right now, Tennessee will have their hands full. I guess this will be the first time since this is the first season Oklahoma and Texas is in the league. I'm sure they will have a fun time in Norman this weekend. But Lady Vols are very competitive. It would not be surprising to see them win a game or win the series out there.
Absolutely. Ben McKee of GoVols 24/7 joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Ben, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and look forward to catching up with you again here as spring sports progress.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on as always, and hope y'all have a great week.
Thank you, Ben.
Let's take a break here real quick on Main Street Sports today. When we continue Top 5 Tuesday on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more basketball. Stick around.
Only in Smashville are opponents welcomed with some good old-fashioned Southern hospitality. We'll give you a hand, cheer you on. Hey, we'll even leave a light on.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment of the show, Wade and I will give you songs we hate. Stick around for that. Right now, news we hate. Saw this after we got off the air yesterday. Former Vanderbilt women's basketball standout Karen Booker was dismissed after 3 seasons as women's basketball coach at Trevecca Nazarene. Mark Elliott, in the release accompanying that news, there are a lot of components when evaluating the success and direction of our athletic programs. While this decision is very difficult, it's important to acknowledge the on-court success that our program had under Karen's leadership. We thank Karen for her contributions to the women's basketball program. They struggled. I think they finished 8-20 this past season after winning 23 games her first year and 19 games her second year. intriguing move.
Yeah, another kind of little bit of a blip in the carousel for Trevecca, which kind of continues. Feels like a lot of their programs have not been able to find that consistency that they're really kind of looking for since they've made that full-blown move to NCAA Division II. And, one of our very own, a friend of the show from down in Pulaski, Mr. Chad Hibden, tried his hand at it for, perhaps longer, I think, than some folks thought, in 6 seasons. Turns out he got a longer leash than Karen did. So just feels like Trevecca kind of got so used to kind of ruling the roost, at least in women's basketball at the NAI level, for so long. And it's been a tough sled, and they haven't latched on. And it feels like a little bit of a quick rug pull there, but I don't know. Trying to make something happen and trying for a fresh start, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I wish them luck. I certainly wish Karen luck, and we'll see where they both land. That is far from the only coaching change. We talked yesterday about Rick Stansberry being in the mix at UNLV. Well, apparently he wasn't as in the mix as we and a lot of folks thought. Former Georgia Tech coach Josh Pastner has been announced as a new coach of the Running Rebels.
He's back, baby.
Very interesting. I mean, 7 years at Memphis, 7 at Georgia Tech, 5 NCAA tournament appearances total, but over his 7 seasons in Atlanta, only made it to the NCAAs once. So, and has been out of coaching for a minute, right, Wade? I'm trying to figure out how long he's been out.
Couple of seasons. His last year was 22-23. And this one is a little bit surprising to me, just in the sense he's great on television and feels like that was a role that I didn't necessarily get the thought. I don't have any inside knowledge on this, but just felt like he was comfortable in that role and felt like he could really kind of do that job as long as he wanted. But as we know, just when you think you're out, they pull you back in. And be interesting to see. We just kind of ran through UNLV and what that job could be. A little bit removed 10 plus years ago, but a little bit removed from them having Anthony Bennett as the number 1 overall pick under Coach Rice. So, I mean, they went with Chris Beard for 26 hours or something crazy before that fell apart. And then, they haven't found their footing ever since. Pastner, a chance to regroup, reevaluate, kind of lurk in the shadows a little bit. Kind of surprising more on his end. Felt like UNLV, this was kind of a destined type hire, whether it's Stansberry or Pastner, kind of maybe hire somebody on a bounce back, kind of like Mullen, like we talked about on the show in the football side of things yesterday. But a little bit surprised that Pastner makes the move. Felt like he was good on TV and could have stuck that out for a while.
I feel like, though, Wade, and you'll appreciate this, I think coaches coach. And I don't know that once you've been a coach, you can necessarily be satisfied with anything else if the opportunity to coach is there.
Makes sense. I mean, it just felt like he kind of, hey, it's hard to get fired from a desk. It's hard to get fired from a desk talking about it's a lot easier. A lot of guys made a lot of money. Guys and girls made a lot of money doing that. So
absolutely.
Chance to get back in. And yeah, he's kind of minted on television. If this doesn't work out at UNLV, he can go around and end up back somewhere. So, and he kind of strikes me. He's got the Memphis connection. There's always a little seedy underbelly with Memphis basketball in terms of pay to play and things of that nature. So, now that he has come back from the squeaky clean Georgia Tech, he kind of maybe settles back in a little more villainous undertones here with UNLV. And maybe he'll do well there.
UNLV, which has not been to the NCAA since 2013.
Yeah. With Bennett, got to the second round, and then he went number 1, bounced, and then never to be heard from again.
Clearly. This one you kind of knew was coming. It was kind of a when, not if. Former Colorado State coach Nico Medved is the new coach at Minnesota. He's a Minnesota native, and Colorado State was the NCAA tournament darling of the opening round or the opening weekend. So, yeah, he was going to be too hot for Fort Collins to hold once that happened. I think. Particularly, again, a school back in his native Minnesota comes calling. I guess he's used to the cold.
Yeah, just like we saw with Coach McCollum taking, job just down the road. You're kind of going back home and kind of staying close to home. Previously he was at Drake. Previously he was at Furman. Colorado was a little bit kind of outside of his realm of expertise in some regards. Had great success there, obviously, and had been there quite a while. Minnesota, obviously a step up on the pecking order. Hadn't had a lot of success in the last decade, it feels like. So we'll see what the Golden Gophers can do with this guy in charge.
Yeah. Two items from the NBA that deserve mentioning real quick while Chip is in the green room. Jimmy Buckets goes back to Miami tonight, and he really wants to downplay it, but I don't know that he's going to get his wish.
No, I mean, this is exactly if we're smack dab in the middle of the NCAA tournament, so everybody's salivating over all the college basketball. This is a perfect little time for the schedule to break the way it does for the NBA execs. Everybody will be kind of drooling and trying to find this game on television tonight. And, Jimmy, be fascinated to see what kind of performance he has. I feel like this goes one of two ways, right? Either he really is force-fed and they try and get him everything. His over-under on points tonight is listed at 21.5. Feels like Miami's either going to really, really try and stuff it to him, or, he does kind of take a little bit of a back seat, kind of downplay it, and try and just help the team get the victory. They need the victory way more than Miami does tonight.
Golden State 16-4 since Jimmy Butler arrived. So, you can't deny whatever went on in Miami. He has really helped Golden State out.
Absolutely. And them and the Grizzlies, they've got a game up on the Clippers for right on the cutoff of that guaranteed playoff spot. But if they can maybe make another game or two, I mean, we've talked with many, many guests on this show many, many times. The West is just loaded from seeds 2 through 6 right now. Everybody, 2 through 7, really. Everybody is jockeying for position. And the Rockets are in the 2 seed, and they only have a 5-game lead on the Warriors for the 6 seed. That's the type of logjam we're talking. Golden State could climb as high as 2, could finish, as low as 7, but he's kind of really got them rounded into form.
We talked about Bronny James getting 17 for the Lakers in a game last week. Well, he had 39 for South Bay in the G League last night. South Bay lost the ball game, but Bronny had 39. So I don't know what this means necessarily. South Bay is now 14-17. They are not going to make the G League postseason, but certainly a great night for him.
And I was talking Bronny James. Now he, I don't know if we're ready to give him the G League MVP award or anything, but he just had 10 points at halftime the other night. He's kind of that swing guy, and the Lakers are kind of trying to figure out what's going on, but this has got to be at least a positive sign. I was really wondering how he would perform in G League duty because we talked about it a couple of times. Everybody wants to lock this guy down. Joe Schmo in the G League can make his money by holding Bronny down. That's a chance for a little scalp, as it were, there. So good for him for being able to get it done and fight through a little adversity there. 7 boards and 4 steals and 4 assists as well.
Yeah. Well-rounded game for Bronny James. Let's take a break here as hour 1 on Top 5 Tuesday continues on Main Street Sports today. When we come back for hour number 2, we'll be joined by the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And we are now joined, as we typically are on Tuesdays, by the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, hailing from Murfreesboro. What's going on, guy?
Oh, it is, God, I'm looking out my window and wishing I was out in the pavilion behind our office doing this show today. That's a me problem that I didn't go out there and take advantage of that. But man, what a beautiful day it is. It's only going to get better here the next couple of days this week. So
hey, don't tempt me with a good time.
That's right. Good day for a good couple of days here for the outdoor sports for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. What's happening with outdoor sports on campus?
Baseball just got they salvaged a win down at Dallas Baptist, which Dallas Baptist had been the monster on the block, and had, as I mentioned, had ruled Oklahoma State on the road a couple of weeks ago. But Middle salvaged a win there on Sunday. Scored 12 runs, had 20 hits in the Sunday game to win 1 out of 3 on that trip, which, going in, if the coaches are never going to say it, and the players are never going to say it, but you kind of looked at that and you said, boy, if we can go down there and get 1, that's not too bad. Softball is still playing, and they are 3 weeks into their season now, into the conference season. This past weekend was the opening weekend of baseball, and all of that has to do with where conference tournament dates fall and all that kind of stuff. But baseball, after being on the road, they are back on the road today, heading up to Cape Girardeau for a non-conference game with the SEMO Ball Club, probably at beautiful Kappaha Park in downtown Cape Girardeau, where Middle won its last OVC championship, if I remember correctly. Was there in the Cape. And so this has been a home and home. SEMO came down not too long ago, and Middle got a win there. So you've got a midweek today, and then you'll have FIU coming in for the first home weekend of conference baseball. And I was just taking a real quick look. FIU went 2-1 last weekend. Everybody is either 2-1 or 1-2. In baseball after the first weekend, but had 2 starting pitchers due to injuries that did not start, including Drew Horn, who threw the no-hitter weekend or so before. And, just nothing major that I'm aware of, just some things that were kind of nagging, but did not allow for a start on Sunday. And so the Blue Raiders actually went to the bullpen and got a spot start and got the victory on Sunday. So sometimes I guess if you don't really have time to think about what you're having to deal with, you sometimes it works out a little better sometimes.
Kind of got into the soft underbelly of DBU's pitching rotation, got them on a Sunday. Maybe that's their weakness right there.
Could
as their
be.
Sunday starter.
Well, I mean, that may be, but their bats are not very weak, and they scored 6, I think, on Sunday in that third game of the series. But I think overall, I think Jerry Myers is pretty happy with where his team is right now. You'd like to have there's a couple I know you could look back on and would like to have back, but you've got several teams right now. I was looking. Who's off to the best starts overall, even though we've only played one weekend of conference play. Western Kentucky, believe it or not, is 21-3, but they were 20. Let me get this correct. They were 20-1 going into the weekend, and they ended up 1-2 in their first conference series. Looking at other Dallas Baptist and FIU each have 16 wins apiece. Liberty has won 17, Middle right there in that mix as well, with the Middle 13-10 right now, heading up to, as we mentioned, going to SEMO today.
Chip, we spent a lot of time in the Ohio Valley Conference, obviously. Is there a worse drive than from here to the Cape?
There used to be there were some landmarks along the way in the old days. We would go up I-24, get off at Anna, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
You go up through Paducah. There were a couple of ways. You could go west at Paducah, or you could stay on the interstate and go up to Anna, Illinois, and then cut across. It was an interesting. There was an entertainment venue, I'll put it like that was on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River there, called the Purple Crackle, that met an unfortunate demise somewhere along the way.
Oh, really?
But it was my understanding that if you were having a hard time finding some trouble, that was a good place to go, and you could typically find it there. As the old joke goes, they check you for guns and knives on the way in, and if you didn't have any, they'd put one on you. They'd give you one. But Cape Girardeau is really kind of a fun town, and they do enjoy their baseball there. It's kind of right down the river from, they're right in Cardinal country, so they take it pretty serious, and always enjoyed going up there, except for football, because their stadium was terrible. Matter of fact, it got condemned, and they had to rebuild part of it because it did get condemned. But their basketball arena, the Show Me Center, was, it was always a great atmosphere, and their baseball park. There's some stories I can't tell on the air about that OVC tournament and a late night game after a tornado warning there at Kappaha Park, that it got a little testy in the ballpark that night. But I remember Steve Peterson was coaching the team, and he knew it was, Middle had already announced they were changing leagues, and it was the last trip through the OVC, and everybody had been out. Middle had a target on its back, and you know how focused Pete could get, and he'd get that chin would come out, and he would be, he was totally laser focused, and Middle went up there and won, and got an NCAA tournament bid after a fun tournament up there, and that's of all the things I remember about Pete, I remember just how focused he was, wanting to leave the OVC with a championship, and he certainly did.
When you said that the football stadium at SEMO had been condemned, did not surprise me in the least. No, not at all. The Blue Raider softball team heading west.
They're going to the Bluff City. We'll take on Memphis. And, Jeff Breeden has got a ball club that is really that can really hit it. Now, I was looking at some of the conference stats, and we've talked about Ansley Blevins and her ability to hit the long ball. They say chicks dig the long ball. It's just in this case, that chick digs hitting it long and out of the ballpark. And we mentioned her mom played volleyball at Middle. Angie Raffo, her uncle was a Blue Raider baseball pitcher, Greg Raffo, out of Hickman County. And so she's got some good roots, and Middle softball is they, like I said, they have hit the ball pretty well this year, and right now Middle hitting 240 as a team, but when you look at some of their power numbers, they've hit 33 home runs so far this year, which is in the top half of the league, and they're right now they're in the bottom half of the league in the conference race, but they've got some good young players, and like we mentioned, Ansley Blevins has been the real he's been a lot of fun, or she's been a lot of fun to see and watch her play, because her ability at the plate and also as a catcher is something special. And one of the real fun stories about the softball program and their offense is their hitting coach is Bryce Brents, who is one of the highest drafted Blue Raider baseball players ever, and he has really found a home. I think there was a lot of speculation. Well, is Bryce going to enjoy softball? Well, the thing is, the girls have been extremely coachable, and Bryce has done it. He's one of the all-time great Pawtucket Red Sox players of all time, and had it not been for a couple of guys who may end up in the Hall of Fame, he could have been patrolling the outfield at Fenway Park. So, but Bryce, we know, can hit the ball. He had one of the best seasons ever in college baseball history, hitting the baseball. So he is able to translate that ability to the young ladies on the softball team.
I'm very fascinated by that, because I wonder how much coaching he's doing and how much coaching they're doing. I mean, obviously, hitting a softball and hitting a baseball there's some differences there. I mean, the shorter distance, the rise ball instead of the drop and that kind of thing. But clearly it is translating, and that's great to see him being successful in that role.
I think he's probably teaching. They're probably soaking up the technical ability that he is able to give them, and how to be a pro. Like he just knows how to carry himself. They're probably teaching him and coaching him up on the nuances of that game, and those 60-foot base paths. That makes things happen fast when you put a ball in play.
Memphis, Middle Tennessee State going to Memphis for a Wednesday night matchup, 5:00 start. Get back home, and they've got Kennesaw coming in for a weekend series here, and coming off of a sweep down at Louisiana Tech, or coming off of getting swept at Louisiana Tech. They need to string some wins together here.
Yep, they do, and getting back home will certainly help. And when getting Sam Houston back here should be helpful. Right now, Sam Houston, though, is 6-3. They're just over 500 overall. But the good, one of the things for fans this weekend is that you have the ability with both teams playing at home, baseball and softball. You can, if you're a Diamond Sports fan, it's a good weekend to be out there. And also this Saturday will be Little League Day at Blue Raider Baseball, and if youngsters show up in their youth league jerseys, they get in free.
There you go.
So Nothing like kids at the ballpark.
No, certainly not. Hey, Chip, I do want to get an update. Hey, it's been 24 hours. Give us the latest on the portal, man. I know you got the goods. What's the latest basketball portal news?
The only thing I know is what I read on social media as well, and it appears that Justin Porter has put his name in. I haven't, I don't have access to the actual portal, but I was looking at the, I guess it was the On3 portal that they have. And the last time I looked, which was yesterday, I guess, Justin Porter was the only one there. And I guess that stuff will start to fill in. You'll see other names, whether it's just to test the water, see what's out there, or even if they're wanting to stay, just testing what the value might be. I think a lot of teams are going to do that. We saw JP last year go into the portal and end up back where he is. Who says that's not going to be the case this year? It's just, right now it's just a fluid situation, and obviously for the next 6 weeks or so, it is going to be the time that the basketball coaches, will be rebuilding this roster. We know that there were 9 seniors that went through senior day, but there are several of those that do have eligibility, mainly in part due to the Diego Pavia ruling that will allow folks to allow them to come back. And, and Justin Porter is one of those that is the beneficiary of that, because he did start out in junior college, and so which that gives him an extra year. And whether it's going to be here or somewhere else, obviously just time will tell.
Chip, it appears that in addition to Justin Porter, there is a certain Lady Raider who has entered the portal as well. And
tell me, you know more than I do.
Tamia Scott.
Okay. I haven't seen that yet, but could be again, just testing the water situation, because obviously she had a terrific year, and she's got some value out there. And I know for me and you, Wade is younger. We don't want to give him too much credit, but he is younger
up here, Daddy.
And but I'm having to reprogram how I think about those things when I see it. I mean, last year taught me a lot, I think, because there were so many kids. I think back over the last couple of years, you had Eli Lawrence a couple of years ago that ended up at Texas A&M. And JP went in it last year, came back.
Right.
There and also saw how Middle got better through the portal last year with Jalen Counter and Esam Mustafa. That could happen again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to reprogram my brain where the fan part of me does not take it personally. Does that make sense? You know where I'm going with that?
Absolutely, it makes sense. And you want what's best for these kids, but at the same time, I will tell you that after watching Tamia Scott develop here in 3 years, it's tough to watch her, or it's tough to consider the possibility that she exhausts her eligibility somewhere else. I mean, averaged almost 17 points, almost 7 rebounds a game for this team, and really kind of the linchpin just in terms of consistency and that kind of thing for this Lady Raider team. And obviously, again, the game has changed, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, and it's kind of a paradigm shift, but it's kind of tough to think of her being somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And it was that way with Courtney Blakely too, and she ended up coming back. So it is, I always get tickled, when anybody puts something out there, you get all the response, pay the man or pay the, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, and I understand that, as Jay Billis tweeted the other day, the coaching transfer portal is always open. Why can't it be for the players? I get that. But it's, to me, the part that hurts me is I really, enjoy with what I do. One of the greatest parts of that is meeting the young people and
Mm-hmm.
building a relationship, and in 10 years down the road, they show up with their little kid hanging on to them, and 20 years from now they're showing up with their kid who's all of a sudden now a junior high or high school player, and building those relationships. And I'm worried that the student athletes of today are going to miss out on some of that. Where are you going to go to homecoming in 20 years?
Going to go to 4, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we all know where we came from, and we go back there, and I think that part of the experience is going to be missed out on, and the ability to just kind of go willy nilly is sad to me. But I understand it is the world we live in now, and hopefully it all works out for everybody involved. Because as I have learned, the portal giveth and it also taketh away.
To Mo's point, my former Michigan Wolverine, Frankie Collins, he's in the portal. Yeah, 4th school in 5 seasons. He's leaving TCU. And I read an article today. Brad Underwood at Illinois said it's basically like speed dating in terms of trying to get these kids and get familiar with them as quick as you can to bring them in. And that's a part that it's intriguing to me. All the extra stuff to the side is just because you may have resources at your disposal doesn't mean you're the best at finding what's there for you. And I'm curious, in the schools that are better than others, I guess, for lack of a better term, at navigating the portal, whether that's keeping kids or bringing in new ones.
And there was a lot made of what Shaka Smart has been able to do at Marquette the last few years about that. And, now that he's kind of gone through that cycle with all of those players, will that change as he tries to rebuild his roster there? So that's kind of one to look at. I think, and I talked about this throughout the year, and I'm talking about Middle's men right now, is that was I'm not sure I've ever been around a group, even though there were so many new faces to go with old faces, that group enjoyed being around each other and got along about as good as any that I've ever traveled with in 40 years of doing this. And that's one of those things that I know is very important to Nick McDevitt and his staff, is to not only bring in good players, but bring in good people that get along. Nick made a comment when he took the job at Middle that the players he brought in, he wanted to know that he would be just fine having those kids babysit his children. And he goes, those are the kind of people that I want to bring in. And, they've got that challenge right now. How do you replace an Issam Mustafa with everything he brought to the table? Such a special guy. And, and the way it was a tough ending. Believe it or not, that was only 7 days ago, last Tuesday night, in what it was an instant classic at Murphy Center. Didn't have the ending we wanted, but man, what a game. And it showed me that this group, even in a triple overtime loss, laid everything they had on the line and put it out there. It just didn't work out in the end. But I mean, Cam Weston came on and he goes, he said, outside of winning it all, he goes, I can't think of a better way to go out than with nothing left in the tank. And you got to respect him for that.
And to go out, on your home floor in front of your home fans. And I tell you what, if
was an atmosphere in there.
If anybody personifies nothing left in the tank that night, it was Cam Weston. He fouled out, but he while he was out there, he gave it everything he had, and he put that team on his back for some stretches during that ball game.
Yep, sure did, and the prediction I keep making for Cam is Cam's going to play professional basketball somewhere. It could be anywhere around this globe as we have seen the game expand.
Mm-hmm.
But my prediction is at some point in his professional career, Cam Weston will wear a Harlem Globetrotters uniform. I think he is a perfect fit for the Globetrotters with his ability to handle the ball and all the tricks that he can do anyway. I think he could fit right in with them.
Or we could bring it, we could go back.
Blue Raider that would be a Globetrotter if that happens.
Well, I was thinking helicopter from the N1 back in the day too. I mean, let's just really bring it all the way back.
That's right. Mr. Humphrey, who is still around, he can do it. But yeah, William Pippin and Alex Weeks are both former Blue Raiders that wore the Harlem Globetrotter uniform.
Very interesting.
So we'll see. I wish them all the best. Absolutely.
Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Chip, no basketball. What's next for you?
Work on two things.
Okay.
Spring football showcase April 12th, and also Raiders Choice Awards that will be coming up. Whatever the first day of the draft is where that falls on that Thursday night. That'll be and just think about in the last couple of months. Think about the performance of the year nominees. How about Cam Weston with 30 twice? How about Esam Mustafa with a 30 and 20 night?
Mm-hmm.
How about Drew Horn with a 9-inning no-hitter? There we will have no shortage of nominees for some awards coming up on the Raiders Choice Awards in late April.
April 24th, I think that is. That's the Thursday. So now, will you be getting fitted for a tux, or do you have one now?
I actually, whether I have I may break from tradition this year and not wear a tux. I do have a brand new suit that I picked up today, partially for the TSSAA event coming up, and it may get double duty for maybe just add a little upgrade to the tie or something, and that could be used
twist
for Raiders Choice. A little tweak.
Put
a different pocket square on or something.
You got to get your money's worth out of it. That's for sure.
That's right.
So,
no question.
Chip Walters. When is that? Is that April 7th? Is that
April
when that
7th.
is?
April
Okay.
7th.
All right. So that's roughly 2 weeks. Then.
Yep.
So.
Yep. 2 weeks from yesterday. By the way, Mo, I need to call you out. I was flipping through the TikTok machine the other night, and all of a sudden I come up on a live with Jeff Pearlman, and who did he bring up that was a huge influence on him during his days at 1100 Broadway? He said that nobody taught him how to be an actual beat reporter more than Mo Patton.
I'm gonna need to let Jeff talk to some of my superiors. Apparently, yeah. No, that was I've had 3 different people send me that clip actually, and to see what Jeff has gone on and done over the course of his career, he's gotten too hot for us. We had him on a couple of times, but as is so often the case, we've not been able to line up schedules here recently.
Apparently, he's been in Nashville the last few days.
I think he's in Nashville now, actually. Yeah. But for somebody who has gone on and done everything that he's done and written everything that he's written, for him to acknowledge that publicly, that I had some sort of involvement in his development is it's pretty wild. It's kind of hard to grasp,
but
be honest.
Yeah, he called out you and Mike Organ.
And Organ, that's it. Yeah, so that's it's an honor. Again, best-selling author, and he's done a lot of great things in the journalistic world as well as his book writing experiences. So yeah, it was.
He is so gifted, taking a story and making a long form piece out of it, whether it's a book or a magazine length story, that kind of thing. He's very, very talented.
He is very talented, and he knew he was talented for a long time, and but yeah, he's a good dude, and he's done a great job at what he does, and really happy to see his success, and again, to be, somehow tied to it. It's kind of cool. Chip, get your wardrobe together. Breaking a little fashion news here on Main Street Sports today. But we always appreciate you.
Hollywood fashion plate that we all are, right?
Mm-hmm. There we go. Absolutely. We will catch up with you next Tuesday, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chip.
Right. Let's take a quick break here on Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will give you songs we hate. But between now and then, we're going to get into the grab bag. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by TOA of Columbia. Let's talk a little baseball. We've mentioned that before the weekends, we will actually have Major League Baseball games that count, and this won't take place this week, but a week from Monday, well, a week from yesterday, Monday, when the Athletics open their home schedule against the Chicago Cubs in West Sacramento, all of the uniform personnel for the Athletics will be wearing jerseys with the number 24 on them to honor the late Ricky Henderson, who passed away on December 20th. Greatest leadoff hitter in Major League Baseball history, period, bar none. No argument. I will accept no dispute on that. So
ain't getting one from me.
Yeah, I just think it's great that they are doing that. They are going to wear a patch all year long on the sleeve of their uniforms, honoring Ricky. But everybody's going to wear 24 in that opener on March 31st against the Cubs. And I mean, I just think it's a great thing. It feels obvious, but at the same time, just because things like that feel obvious doesn't necessarily mean they take place. So kudos to the Athletics for a little hat tip to Ricky. The Athletics will begin their season in Seattle on Thursday. Again, it's right around the corner, but their home opener is on Monday against the Cubs in West Sacramento, and that is when they will be putting on the number 24s all over the field. So good for them. That should be fun to see. I'm interested to see how, what kind of crowd they'll get in Sacramento, and all year long, I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on, obviously, especially with a AAA team playing a season there in addition to a major league team. So
yeah, that would be a team that we'll certainly keep eyes on. And you're right. Seems like an obvious gesture that needed to be done. I do feel I get a little PTSD when this happens for the statisticians.
Yeah.
Good thing it's baseball and you can kind of sort that out a little easier, but it's still not perfect. So, and you're right. I'm looking at Monday's schedule on ESPN, at least. They offer your ticket prices. They have ticket prices listed for every team except for the Cubs and A's at $9.05 Monday night. So we'll have to wait and see how much it'll cost to get into that one on Monday.
Managing that all 24s all the time, I think, is a little easier at the major league level than maybe at the high school level. I covered a softball game yesterday, and when they switched pitchers, they also switched up the entire infield, and trying to figure all that out with little to no communication. Good luck. So I think they will handle that a little bit better in West Sacramento than they did in Murray County last night. But
no doubt.
Yeah. We've talked about the Braves. They traded Ian Anderson over the weekend to the Angels. They've also made a couple of under the radar deals, bringing Craig Kimbrell back, also signing ex-Astros reliever Hector Neris. Well, they have also signed former Red Sox and former Yankees outfielder Alex Verdugo, who found the free agent market to be a little bit slower than he had anticipated after 1 year in the Big Apple. He signed a 1 year, $1.5 million deal with the Braves late last week. I guess we were a little distracted by the state tournament, but he's going to start the year in Gwinnett because he had not been in anybody's spring training camp, obviously. But, pretty good defensive outfielder, got a little bit of pop, but also apparently his professionalism kind of came into question during his stay both in Boston and in New York. Got some tardiness issues, apparently, that kind of wore on Alex Cora when he was in Boston.
Got to be showing up to the game on time. Got to show up. But I mean, hey, talent trumps a lot of things. And Atlanta, again, another sneaky kind of move. Not going to blow you off the radar. Not going to make the bottom line or anything. But these are the types of moves you kind of got to make to build that extra depth that you're inevitably going to need.
Especially inevitably when you're the Braves over the past few years. Hopefully they don't need that depth this year to the degree that they have needed it in years past. But yeah, it's always nice to have an extra stick or two down at Gwinnett, somebody that can go get it. I mean, again, a lot of those names got called on over the course of last season, like Ramon Laureano and some of the other folks that wound up contributing because of a spate of injuries. But hopefully the voodoo dolls, whoever had those the last few years, they've put those away and maybe they're concentrating on somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe, we've seen the East, right? I mean, the Mets have had some issues. The Phillies have had some issues. Ryan Weathers is going to start the season on the IL for the Marlins. The Braves might win the division just by a war of attrition at this point. Just stay whoever can stay the healthiest might just win that thing.
It certainly doesn't hurt. Good health does not hurt, and it would be nice to get some for a change. High school football news from around Williamson County earlier today. Nolensville football coach Paul Derrick is former Nolensville football coach Paul Derrick. After 2 seasons as defensive coordinator under Will Hester, 7 seasons as coach of the Knights, Derrick has stepped down. Nolensville went 58-28 over the last 7 seasons under Derrick. And they have made the playoffs each year that they have been a varsity program, between that second year under Hester and the 7 years under Derrick. So they hit the ground running and have continued to do so. Again, 7-5 this past season. Lost to Shelbyville in the second round of the playoffs, advanced to the 4A semifinals in both 19 and 20. Eliminated by region rival Page in 21 and 22, when Page advanced to the state finals in both of those seasons. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in, because Patrick Curran, who had served as offensive coordinator under Derrick, announced a few weeks ago that he'd be leaving at the end of the school year. He is joining Zach Mittenberger's staff at Father Ryan. He's still coaching the girls' flag football team at Nolensville, though. So he's leaving. Another assistant, Daniel Childs, is leaving to go to Montgomery Bell Academy. So it feels like Nolensville will likely be going outside for Derrick's successor, and attracting coaches hasn't been a problem of late in Williamson County. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in to get a replacement for Derrick.
Yeah, going to have to step their game up in a hurry, right? If they want to have that continuity. They've been a great program the last couple of seasons, whether it's under Hester or Derrick. So you'd like to keep that good vibes and that good energy kind of rolling rather than a full rebuild. But yeah, it doesn't feel like they'll be hurting for candidates, at least.
It doesn't seem like. Cam Ward had his pro day down at the University of Miami yesterday, and it was attended by a large number of staff members of the Tennessee Titans front office. It was also attended by a former member of the Tennessee Titans front office. Apparently, Rand Carthon is doing some work for CBS Sports and conducted a sit-down interview with Ward after the pro day festivities took place. And, I'm wondering how awkward that was.
Very awkward. Props to Rand and props to Cam for kind of getting through it as best they could. But yeah, got to be about as awkward, and was kind of the body language was not necessarily teeming with comfortability, to say the least. But good for Rand for getting back out there. He's a likable, lovable, personal guy. And, not surprised that he's kind of getting something going immediately. And then Cam kind of did what he does best, kind of showing off that athleticism and kind of showing off that likability, kind of selling himself as the number 1 overall pick. It was fun, but awkward, to say the least. It's right.
Feeling more and more like he is going to be 1-1 and coming to Nashville
or somewhere.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have an issue with it, man. I mean, I still feel like that hopefully this offensive line is enough better that it doesn't get him killed. I guess that's my biggest concern with another rookie quarterback.
Yeah. Godspeed to Mr. Ward if he does end up 1-1 in Nashville. Best of luck. And at least he can get out of the pocket a little quicker than some of the other guys we've seen the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Chidobe Awuzie, kind of following the Nashville to Baltimore trend, signed a deal with the Ravens here, following his release, I guess, by the Titans at the end of this past season. Played in 8 games with 7 starts, 26 total tackles, 4 pass breakups, a pick, and a forced fumble in 2024 with the Titans after previous time with Dallas and Cincinnati. So,
yeah, not his best effort by and large. Obviously, the injuries, kind of had a major say in that, but still serviceable. And we know that Baltimore loves to turn some diamonds in the rough and kind of either restore them to glory or kind of get the most out of them. He'll fit okay up in Boston, I think.
I think you're
or
right.
Excuse me, in Baltimore.
Yeah. Did I see Ryan Tannehill's name come up somewhere here in the last 24 hours?
That I don't know. I have not seen that. I don't know what corners you've been searching, but I have not seen anything from Mr. Tannehill.
There is an article on SI.com. Apparently, Minnesota is kind of kicking the tires on the former Titans starter.
Interesting.
Yeah, although Ian Rappaport is saying that he could be a last resort for the Vikings, excuse me. And it's obviously they are kind of putting all their eggs in the JJ McCarthy basket, and understandably so. But Rappaport is saying that Tannehill isn't looking to go somewhere as QB2. I don't know what that means if you're Ryan Tannehill.
It's what he said last year, and we saw how that played out. It feels like he's kind of not wanting to come in and just, play babysitter to somebody. He wants to compete at a high level, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like the market is there for that guy unless the right team comes along. So kind of it feels like we're heading toward the same direction. If he's going to dig in his heels there and another team is not going to bring him in as the starter, it feels like we'll be having this same conversation again next year.
Yeah. Okay. Let us forego our final break of the show. Let's roll into our Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports today, as Wade and I give you our top 5 songs we hate. Wade, I'll let you get this party started.
All right, perfect. And you mentioned songs we hate as a result of no bad blood toward Mr. Freeman there at running the PA for MTSU last week, because he did not play this one, and thank goodness I would have got up and left. But 1965, the McCoys, Hang On Sloopy. I don't really have to explain this as a Michigan fan, but if I need to, I will. Ohio State, this is their anthem. They love it. They play it 24/7. They don't play it quite as much when Michigan beats them in football, which has happened more recently than not. So luckily, Sloopy's been on ice a little bit, but no, we got up there right, be number 1.
What prompted this again was the state tournaments and hearing songs, and most of these songs I hear at sporting events, and I have no real control over it. But we're going to go number 1. Cotton Eye Joe really just
man, that's a banger.
Really just gets under my skin. Yeah. No. It's awful. It's awful.
Man.
Yeah. Okay. You're number 2, Wade?
We'll get you on the dance floor and get out to Cotton.
No, we won't.
We'll get a couple fingers in you, and then you'll be ready to go. Tune me up, number 2. Got to go way back. You probably didn't think that Rodgers and Hammerstein from 1945 would be on my list, but the same vein. You'll Never Walk Alone. Yeah, it's a cool song. Yeah, you want to sing it. Yeah, you get fired up. And yeah, the Liverpool faithful, when they sing it, it might even bring a tear to your eye, unless you're an Everton fan. Shout out Robbie Bourne, by the way, a massive Everton fan. 1945, You'll Never Walk Alone. A couple other teams use it too, but I could do without hearing that one for the rest of my life. And I hear it way too much.
we do need to shout out Robbie Boren. Seriously, apparently, after
Biggest Everton fan.
Well, and after 28 years with the Tennessee Titans, he is no longer in their employ, and you hate to hear it.
He won't be playing You'll Never Walk Alone. I guarantee you that.
My number 2, and really it's the song that prompted this, is YMCA by the Village People. I mean, it's old and it's played out. Stop it.
It's making a comeback, Mo. I don't know what you're talking about here.
It does seem to be surging back into the public forum, and I hate that. Yeah. YMCA is my number 2.
Number 3 for me, this song was cool. And, if you caught me on a Wednesday night at Stampedes, I'd be dancing to it. But I'm done cranking the Soldier Boy. We could do without cranking the Soldier Boy. And everybody gets excited, when you hear it for the first 5 or 6 seconds and you get back into the dance. And then after that, no. I mean, it's just way too the background track is just a little too much. It's all over the place. It was fun back in 2007, but I could do without it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a statute of limitations with a lot of songs, and I guess Crank That would be one of those.
Yeah.
My number 3, Achy Breaky Heart, Get It Out of Here. I mean, I enjoyed and appreciated Billy Ray's kind of surge back into the public eye with Old Town Road, but no, I can still do without Achy Breaky Heart.
Man, me and the wife just rewatched the David Lynch classic Mulholland Drive. Billy Ray with a cameo in that movie. Crazy cameo, as a matter of fact. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't hear it that much, but when I do, I'm kind of like, what are we really doing here?
Right, exactly.
You hang around a high school softball field, you're going to hear all these songs. Trust us, folks. Up next for me, I mean, I know it's Tuesday, but when Rebecca Black's Friday comes on, your skin wants to crawl. It was, I guess, quote unquote, popular in 2011. And I think it went popular for how much you wanted to stab yourself in the eyes every time you heard it. And I find myself humming along to it every now and again. And then I slap myself and say, what are you doing? 2011, Rebecca Black, I'm off on Friday. Don't bring it back. Not now, not ever.
Hanson, Bop.
Oh, man.
Stop it.
Man, no love for the brothers.
None. No love at all for Hanson or for Bop. And I'm not sure what else they did. That's the only thing that I'm familiar with, and I'm too familiar with that. I could do without hearing that ever again. Yeah. Your number 5, Mr. Neely.
I got 2 choices here. I got one that's very niche. I'll go with the more popular. I like Will Smith, but Willow Smith's Whip My Hair. It's just too much. It's just too much for me. I would have to be in a really good mood to really be able to suffice that one or stomach that. But if you hear that at the right or wrong time, which is almost any part of the day, if you hear that randomly at like 7 a.m. or something, it'll ruin your whole day. It's just too much, too loud, too fast. You can't do without it. So give me Willow Smith, Whip My Hair. I can't do it.
You don't want to whip your hair back and forth, huh?
No, not at 7 a.m. I'm not ready to headbang at 7 a.m.
My number 5, speaking of is that song, and I can't remember who does it, and it's just as well that I can't, because I would call them out if I could, but that's my number 5. That's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday. That's going to do it for Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join us tomorrow. We will be joined by Joe Sullivan and Heather Williams. We'll see y'all right back here at 2 o'clock.